Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs, and I'm here for a little kind of craft with me, and I'm going to be taking some Dollar Tree items and making them into very affordable but nice looking craft storage. First, I am taking this little metal flower pot. You see these all the time, and I'm going to sand the flower and garden off of it. Just use regular sandpaper. And then after that, I'm going to paint them with chalk paint. Just plain old Waverly chalk paint. And it is milk jug. And I'm going to do like 2 coats of this. And make sure that in between each coat that they're completely dry. And I'm actually going to do a couple of these because I think they're just super cool. So anyway, I've got the smaller one and a bigger one, and I showed you the bigger one sanding it first, but you have to sand off the black. If you don't do that, it does kind of bleed through because it's just a stamped on image, and it is like an ink, and it will bleed through your chalk paint. So anyway, I'm just going over it a couple times, making sure that I get everything. You kind of have to do like 2 coats and then go back and see if there's any spots you miss. And I also, if my paint is too thick, I get a mister out and I just kind of mist a little water on it because you want this relatively smooth. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want it to look a little bit smooth because we're going to make this look like enamel. Now you could take these out and spray them with like enamel paint, but I kind of thought this was easier because I wasn't going to do the inside of these. You could use these for planters and things like that if you don't do the inside, and I'm planning on using them for craft storage, but I might change my mind later. So I'm just doing the outside, and again, I'm doing pretty much 2 full coats. It doesn't really take that much to do these. It's pretty easy. You're seeing me do it here, and it really just takes a couple coats of this. If you wanted to, you could put a primer on first, and it would probably take less. So now I'm going with a transfer from IOD. You could use a stencil. You could use a stamp. I bought these for myself for Christmas, and I think these would look really, really good on those pots. They look good on a lot of things. This particular transfer has a lot of really fun designs, and I'm picking 2 with birds on it for no other reason than I like them. And I'm trying to go for like a maybe a French country type look, cottage look, and so this will work for that. So now what I'm doing is I am taking my top coat that I'm using, and I am going over that, so it's going to give it a really kind of a glossy finish, and then it's going to seal it. And I'm just using some sealer that I have, and it is just Vermis matte, let me see, top coat, and it's color Rantic, I believe. Anyway, so I go over that, and this stuff dries kind of matte, but it dries really, really quick, and it's water-based. I like it. And we're going to be using some polyacrylic over it later because the goal is to make it shiny. But our first coat, I don't want it too shiny because we're going to be doing those transfers on there. And if it's too shiny, then what's going to happen, it makes it harder for your transfer to stick. You know, you can put a sealer on there. Don't put wax because the transfers don't work all that well on wax. They work much better on just kind of a matte sealant. So anyway, what we're going to do, I'm just taking my glue and my little sanding thing to kind of position my uh, little bucket, I guess that's what you call it, pail or whatever. And I'm putting my transfer where I want it on there. So, and that's kind of holding it, keeping it from rolling. Um, and the transfer is fairly easy to put on there. Now, I did have a little difficulty doing these, and that's because I did not wait long enough for my top coat to be completely dry. I should have, just waited. It felt kind of dry to the touch, but it was a little bit tacky. And you really should wait. And you definitely don't want to do your transfers when your paint is wet. They won't stick. And don't use wax sealant before you try and do the transfer. But basically, you just take the little stick that they give you and you rub on there, and it comes off. It's not rocket science. It's pretty easy. You kind of take it in the corner and you peel it up a little bit. And if it's not down, then you go back and you keep rubbing until you get it all down. Like I said, normally it's not as hard as I'm making it right now, but I did not have my sealant on there dry. I should have just kind of waited a little bit longer. But I still got all the transfer off. I had no problems doing it. It was pretty easy. Even though I kind of goofed up because I didn't let my sealant dry. So anyway, here it is. I took it off, and look how beautiful that is. Now you could get a similar effect with a stamp or a stencil, so you don't have to have these transfers. And anyway, I just can't get over that, how great these things look when you get done with them. So I'm going to go ahead and do the second one with a transfer and have to do the same thing with it, and position it in between two things just to keep your thing from rolling. You don't want a moving object when you're trying to put the transfer down. And it's very sticky, so once you put it down, you're kind of committed to wherever you put it. So just kind of, because if you pull it off, you're more than likely you're going to pull some of the transfer off with it. So you really kind of have to leave it where you put it. So anyway, I do the same thing on this. And when you're done with the transfer, you want to go on the shiny side and burnish the transfer down really well. And I'm telling you guys, these have no big border or anything on them at all. They look like they're painted on. They really, really do. They really look painted on. Now there I found a little piece that I had not, like a little part of a leaf. And I don't know that anybody would have noticed. But I just laid my transfer back down and I just kind of went back over those two little spots there. And it fixed those spots. So it's a pretty easy thing to do. And then I went back over and burnished it and made sure it's all down. And we will be sealing this with the polyacrylic over that. You should seal them. So now I have my polyacrylic, and it is very, very shiny. And that is what's going to make this look like enamel. But first, what I'm going to do before I do that is I have just some black chalk paint, and I am going to go around all of the edges of the pot with the black chalk paint, because I'm going to go back later and we're going to put our sealant over that, and it's going to make it look like an enamel pot. You know how the trim is always a different color, like red or blue or black or whatever. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. And it's really not that hard, and you're not trying to get perfection, because we're going to come back later and distress this. So it doesn't matter if it's perfect. And because we put the sealant on there, that first sealant, if you do make a mistake and go on the white, you can just take a baby wipe and wipe it off. because I did that several times. I went on there and I went back in with a baby wipe and just wiped it off, and it came right off. It was no issues at all. And the chalk paint I'm using is just actually chalkboard paint that I got from the Dollar Tree. It's just black chalk paint, nothing special, and it worked just fine for this project. I actually think it's pretty good chalk paint. So anyway, I also do the handles on this, and they're not. I just, the big thing you have to understand, you're just kind of getting the outside of it. You're not trying to get the inner part of the rim, because that would be really hard. And it's going to give us the effect we want. And we're going to be doing some other distressing that it would be kind of futile to be a perfectionist about this unless you want that look. But I want a distressed look. So I'm going to go over the handles and just kind of get them done too. And I think that, doing the handles too, I mean, if you got something that was enamel, that's how it would look. Now, I do not do the inside of these just because I want to use them later for like planters and things like that. And I'm not that concerned with what they look like on the inside, but you could certainly do the same chalk paint on the inside and the same sealant and have a similar look on the inside. And then of course, go in and do the trim and everything on that. So now that I've done that, I'm going to do it on the other one and go completely around it and do the same thing, and just I'm not worried about perfection. I'm just trying to get them both done. The one thing I do say is that when I went to put the polyacrylic over the top, I should have done just the black part first, because it started to bleed onto the white when I just, would wipe it, because your chalk paint's going to be reactivated with anything that's water-based, and polyacrylic is water-based. So now what I'm going to do is I've got this handy-dandy stamp, and it is one of the IOD stamps, and what it does is it makes a look of like chip paint. And I am using my black archival ink. You need to use a permanent ink. And I think this is like my new favorite stamp. It really is. I like the crackle stamps that come with it. It comes with like 3 or 4 of these little chip paints, like different sizes of chips. So I guess depending upon your project or how big of a chip you want, this is the smallest one. And what I did is I just went around all of the edges on the bottom and the top of where you would normally have chipping. And the thing is, on this stamp, the thing you have to remember is you don't want to keep repeating in the same spot. You want to move around the stamp. And I took it off of the backing because that way you have more flexibility. And if I made a mistake or something and I got some where I didn't want it, I just quickly took a baby wipe and wiped off the black, the black. It came right off. As long as you do it right away. You can't do it and then come back 5 minutes later. You need to do it like, within seconds, and it'll wipe right off. So you don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to do this on my other pot. It really is super easy to do. I did try it with the black paint, and my issue with the paint was, with chalk paint especially, it dried so quickly on the stamp that I couldn't get it, by the time I got my stamp to my piece, which was, seconds, it was already dry, and and if you notice the way that I'm using this stamp, I'm like using like a piece of it and then moving to another side and another side, and there's no way you could do that with paint. It wouldn't, it's not really realistic, because it would be dry before you could get to the other pieces. So I personally really like this chippy look. You may not like that. You may want to just kind of avoid that altogether. And we're going to distress this a little bit more, you know, after. And as I said, I did this all the way around the bottom and all the top. And I really didn't worry too much about anything else as far as that. And here I'm just taking my baby wipe, and I'm wiping off the black that's around the rims and distressing them. So now I'm going to take some polyacrylic, and I'm just going to put it in a separate container, and I'm putting a couple drops of my vintage photo because I want it to be have a little bit of a tint to it. And what's going to happen then is it's going to coat my piece and give it a little bit of a vintage look, and and also make it super shiny. So I go over the whole piece, and as I said when I first did it, I didn't seal the black on the bottom and the top, and it started to bleed onto the piece. So I quickly went and sealed it and wiped off, the black that had moved on there, and then got to the point where I'm just doing this coat on. And by now my black's already sealed. So, and you go right over the top of your transfer. You do need to seal in your transfers when you're done. It'll make them last longer and more durable. You can't, like put this in the dishwasher or soak it in water, but you can certainly wipe this off with a damp rag easily. So, I mean, this could be nice in the kitchen or anywhere, or, I'm just going to have little trinkets and stuff around my craft area. That's kind of, it's a kind of a dual purpose room. It's a, family rec room type thing. And I just want to have kind of nice things sitting out. Not against plastic or anything. If you look at my craft room, it's filled with all kinds of stuff like that. But I don't want just utilitarian things out there. I want it to look kind of pretty. So that's why I'm doing this. So basically, I'm just going over both of them with this mixture. And I do have leftover mixture, and I always save that, guys. I have those little square containers that you get from the Dollar Tree, I have those handy, and I always take those little extra bits and do that. Now here I'm taking a baby wipe, and I'm wiping some of it off because it's a little bit darker than I want it. I just want a very light tint. I just want it to look older, not necessarily a very, very dark tint on this, because the idea is to have this white. Okay, so now I'm just kind of taking my black paint, and I'm going over the top of the tint again, because I wiped some of it off when I was wiping it down with the wipe. And now I'm taking some polyacrylic, which is a water-based, very shiny kind of top coat. And I'm picking something that obviously got stuck on there off. And I'm going to do 2 coats of this polyacrylic. It dries really quickly in between coats, and it's super thin. It's super easy to put on. But anyway, that is going to give this a very shiny enamel look on this whole thing. And that's pretty much it for these projects after I put the polyacrylic on. It takes probably 10 minutes to dry to the touch. And now I'm getting some stamps out. This is an IOD stamp that I'm going to use on a basket that we're making. And I take, it's this large angel stamp. I'll put the links below for the products that I'm using. But anyway, I was going to try and use it without the backing because I didn't cut it out. But then I think, I'll just use one of mine. And then I figure out I don't have any that are big enough, so I probably should have just cut it out. But when you're stamping it on material, you probably want something hard. Um, so I did stamp that, and then I don't know what happened to the footage with that, but I did stamp it, and it turned out good. But now I'm taking some bronze paint that I have. It's a bronze metallic paint. You can use Rub and Buff. You can use anything you want. And I'm taking this plain black, I guess it's a wire basket from the Dollar Tree. I have a ton of these all over. They're really nice storage by themselves, but I want to jazz this up a little. I don't want it to just look like I got it from Dollar Tree and stuck it out there. So I'm just taking this and I'm dry brushing this metallic bronze paint on. I love this color. This is actually one that you can activate and, you know, have a patina, but I'm not going to be doing that. The idea of dry brushing it on there is I'm leaving a lot of the black on the actual basket. I'm not doing the inside very much at all. And I'm basically just taking this and using very small amounts of paint to go over it. And this covers really, really well. And it, you know, it's permanent and it has a sealer in it. So you don't really have to do anything to it when you're done. You could spray it with another sealer if you wanted to, but I didn't. I felt like I'm looking for kind of a chippy look anyway. So if some of it chips off, then, you know, that's just more character that's added to the piece. So anyway, you can see it kind of does change it up quite a bit just by adding this paint to it. And as I said, you could activate it if you wanted to, but I chose just to do this. And you can use it any kind of craft paint, metallic paint that you have. You don't have to use just this color. I'm just using it just because I have it. So anyway, I am going on the inside, and again, I am dry brushing it. So it's not going to take very long for this to dry, probably 5 minutes, 10 at the most. And then we're going to move on to the next step with this, which is pretty easy, not hard to do. Here I'm just making sure I get all my little spots in and going over the top of it. So the next thing I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to take my stamp, and I kind of mounted it on two different stamping blocks that I have. But they're the same dimension as far as width and everything, so it'll work. And I stamped my stamp, and this is what it looks like. And I did it on drop cloth, and drop cloth is not going to be a really permanent, not permanent, a really crisp look, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for kind of a faded old look to this. So the only thing that I'd have to say about stamping on material is make sure you have a very juicy stamp. So I'm sorry that part did not get put in. I don't know what happened to it, but it just kind of, I may not have recorded it. I don't know. But anyway, now I'm just kind of folding it in quarters so that I can get like an oval shape, making sure that I kind of keep it centered as far as the design as I'm doing it. And it's still a little bit too big, so I'm going to fold it in quarters again. And all you really do is just fold it in quarters and use a rounded shape. You can draw, like I had that puck out that, I could use that. But I'm just kind of eyeballing it, really, guys. So I'm cutting it a lot shorter so that hopefully it'll fit on there now. And I'm kind of making sure that it's all rounded out. And I fray the edges on it later just because I wanted a little bit more vintage looking. So, and that's just easy to do. You just take your scissors and distress the ends and pull, and and if you don't like that look, you can of course just not do it. So anyway, I do that all the way around it. It gives me that distressed kind of vintage look. I mean, if you had something for a long time, it would not be frayed, especially this. So I go ahead on this and take off the long pieces on it. You could leave them on there, but and I also take some vintage photo and put it around the edges because I want it to look a little bit more distressed. Um, you don't have to do that if you don't want to either. I mean, it's always to taste, guys. So now I'm taking my glue gun and I'm going all over the back of this. Um, not a ton of glue. And yes, you will have glue showing through the back of this. If you don't want that, you can duplicate the shape of your little, the thing that we're putting on your material. And then you can just go ahead and hot glue that to the back of this on the inside. And that would cover all of that up. I personally don't think it looks bad. But, like I said, you could just easily glue in that. I'm pulling off any extra strings of glue and stuff. So I just kind of pressed it in there and put it on. And so now what I'm doing is I am taking a straw, just a paper straw. You could use a plastic straw. It wouldn't really matter. Although it might melt with the glue gun, so maybe you could use a different kind of glue. And I'm cutting it all the way open to where I have a piece and cutting the straw to about like 6 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm just taking some hot glue and I'm putting it on the inside of that so I can glue it to the top of this basket. And there's a method to my madness here. I'm not just going to leave the straw up there, but I'm going to try and now reclose the straw up. That the hot glue attaches it to the metal, and it also allows you to close it up. And I'm going back in and adding a little extra glue to make sure it's closed up. It doesn't have to be perfect because nobody's going to see it. Because the next thing we're going to do with this will cover all of that up. Just be careful you don't burn your fingers when you're doing this. So now I'm going to take this twine that I have. It's more like a kind of a rope twine. It's a little bit thicker than the Dollar Tree twine, but I think they have some that is thicker there that's more of a rope. I just didn't have any. But they do have some thinner twine, and you could certainly do it with that too. It would just probably take more of it. So all I'm doing is putting some glue on the very edge of where the straw is, and I am just going to wind this around the top. And that's why you put the straw on there. It's going to give it some oomph, a little bit of a thickness. So it kind of just, I think it does, elevates the handle. So now all I'm doing is I am weaving the same twine through the top of the whole basket. And it is, all it's going to do is give it like a decorative, top on there. And you go all the way around. I put some hot glue on the end of it to make it kind of easy to pull through. And it is tedious, but it has a good look. So that's it as far as that goes. I put my top coat again on there. This is my Colorantic top coat, and I go over the whole thing with it. I like doing that on this anytime I use drop cloth because it stiffens it up a little bit. It seals the piece, and it also I don't know, I just like how it looks. Some people may not like that, okay, because it dries perfectly clear and matte, but it gives it a kind of a stiffer look when you're done. And I think I go back in here and I add a little hot glue. I missed a spot there. And as I said, if you're worried about how it looks on the inside, just cut a piece to match the outside, and then you can just glue that, back to back. And that's all there is to this. And I think it looks cute. I think we've upgraded that Dollar Tree look of this basket. I don't know. So let me know if you think you like it. So now I've just got some of my Dollar Tree. These stickers, they sell them there, and they are chalkboard. And I'm just showing you on this oval one. If you wanted to, you could put that on there and then mark what's in the basket. I think it would look cute on there. You could put it permanently or temporarily. So now I'm using my very last Dollar Tree makeover. And on this, what I'm doing is I have some green Waverly chalk paint, and I am adding some salt wash to it. You could use baking soda. It would do the same thing. And I am going to put a coat of this mixture all on the outside of this container, because my goal is to disguise it so it doesn't end up looking like, you know, the tin that you got from Dollar Tree. And so those letters, I mean, you could leave them there. Those are not gonna bleed through like the ones on the other tin. And you could leave them and, you know, paint over them and then distress them. In fact, I kind of do that on a different make and a different video. But for this, I want a completely different look. I want to cover up this flower and garden, because those are like not just imprinted, but dented in there. So they're raised. So I'm putting this salt wash on, and it's fairly thick. I put it in there fairly thick. And that's the thing about salt wash or using baking soda with your chalk paint. Chalk paint covers really well, but this just kind of brings it up a notch or two. And I put it on pretty thick to where it's almost like putting like stucco on or something. And I am dabbing up and down with my brush so that I can cover up all of those letters. And we're going to be doing more covering up, but that is going to help disguise this in the end. Now, I am not doing the inside again for all the reasons I told you before, just because I may want to use this as a planter or something else later. And, you know, I don't think your chalk paint would hold up to that. And this would be, and you want to be able to wipe it out also too, depending upon what you're going to store in it. So I'm just doing the outside. But if you want to do the inside, you could certainly do the inside. So I'm going to keep going around and using as much of this and getting it on as thick as I can. And as each coat dries, I'm going to be adding more and more to those raised letters, because the idea is to completely disguise those. That's the goal. And the one thing about this chalk paint, guys, it dries really fast. So the chalk paint with the salt paint, the salt wash together, it gets thick super quick. Which in this case, I use it to my advantage, because I'm using the thicker mixture to go back over those letters, you know, to really kind of hide them. So anyway, I'm going to cover that up, what's left, just to try and keep it from completely drying out, because I want to use the leftover later. So now I'm taking some air dry clay, and I'm going to go ahead and cast a couple of molds here. I have a couple of different ones. This is like a label one. I used it before. I really love this thing because I don't know, it's just the size of it, and to me it looks like a label. So you could definitely write on it later and, you know, say what you have on it. Although honestly, on these pieces, guys, I really am probably just going to have stuff sitting in it open. So I'm not too worried about labeling things. And then I'm going to go ahead and cast a few more pieces because I am going to use this on the tin along with some resin that I've already cast. I thought I was just going to do one side of this, and then I kind of changed my mind. So I'm doing this instead. And I'm also too, because I kind of want to show you that you don't have to just use resin in these molds. And you can use any mold, guys. You don't have to use the IOD ones. But I got these as kind of a Christmas present to myself. And I'm telling you, I absolutely love playing with clay. If you haven't done that in a while, you should get some of this stuff. And it's really a lot of fun to do. And there's so many things that I can think of that I can add, these decorations to. In fact, I did a frame with moldings recently, and it's shocking how good it turned out because it was a very, very plain frame. And I just put all kinds of stuff on it, and it ended up looking really pretty unique. So I am just taking that lovely little tool that you get with your transfers and your IOD transfer stick. I use that thing for so many things. And all I'm doing is, because of this rim that they have on IOD molds, you can just wipe it off. And you guys, this is way harder than it should be to take out because I skipped a very, very important step. I forgot to put cornstarch in my mold before I put the clay in and cast them. But these molds are really easy to work with, super flexible, and I get the stuff out no problem at all, no breakage or anything. But they would have just popped right out if I'd have put the cornstarch in, and I just completely forgot to do it. So this was kind of like a last minute thing because I was kind of looking at that tin with the resin that I already did. And I'm not going to show you how to do that. I did it in my last video. If you want to go back and look, I can go ahead and put that in the description box. And I show you how to do it. But I didn't do the clay, so I thought I'll go ahead and show you how we do that. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to figure out where I want this on my little tin. I guess that's what I'm going to call it, because I don't know. I think it's supposed to be a planter. I really do. But anyway, once I get everything positioned where I want it, I'm going to glue it down, and I am using my I don't remember what glue actually I used. I used my Tight Bond Quick Thick wood glue. And it will adhere very easily to the chalk paint. If we were going to go straight onto the tin, I might use my maybe my Gorilla Glue, my construction glue. But the Tight Bond holds to this really, really well. And I'm going to have to wait a little bit anyway before I get on to my next part of using this. And in fact, I put the other molds or castings on, and I kind of mess up the front of this a little bit when I do that because it wasn't dry all the way. Because I forget that those are on the back, but it turns out fine. It turns out fine. The thing is about using the clay is you have to be really gentle with it unless you let it dry all the way. But even then, it breaks. I never use these things after they're dry. I always put them on wet. I mean, I remember the first time I did air dry clay, I didn't know you were supposed to, use it wet. So I let everything dry, and I went, well, this is horrible because, when you try and glue them down, they broke. They didn't dry flat. I'm like, well, how is this going to work? Until I finally saw how people did it, and I went, oh, okay, that makes total sense. So anyway, that's how I put it, and you can move it around for a while, and it's going to take at least a couple hours for it to completely dry. And I actually do go in and use my heat gun on this a little bit to help it along to get it to the point where I can finish this project. But ideally, you should wait overnight. I mean, that's really what you should do. Now I'm going over this with my paint before it's dry. Basically right after I put it on. Maybe about 20 or 30 minutes later, so that the glue has time to set up a little bit. And the reason you do that is that you want to try and minimize the cracking of the clay as it dries. And what this does is it holds in the moisture. And you'll find whenever you do this, it takes your clay a lot longer to completely dry. And that's kind of the point, is that the drying is slow. So then you avoid some of the cracking. But I don't mind a little bit of cracking. I really don't. I think that's the beauty of using the clay over the resin. It has that very imperfect look to it. And, you know, that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve in the end anyway, in most of this stuff, because I'm trying to make it look vintage, because that's the vibe I'm going for. But anyway, I'm basically going over the entire mold. And, if you miss some spots, not a big deal, because we're going to go back in with green paint later. Anyway, it's just a way to keep it from cracking. And the one thing you do have to be careful, I am using a very, very soft bristle brush, and I am not pouncing too hard on my mold. So now I'm going back with that same brush, same green paint, and this is Waverly Spanish moss, in case you're wondering. And anyway, I'm going over my other molds, and I already glued these down, by the way, guys. And I used, I think I did. No, I used Type Bond on it too. So anyway, this is just some resin that I already cast the other day, and I decided to go ahead and put this on the other side. Like I said, I was going to do just one side, but I thought, no, this will help cover up the letters on the other side, and it'll look nice. I mean, don't we want our stuff to look nice on both sides? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take my salt wash mixture that I had, and I think I did add a little bit of water to it because it did dry out a little bit. And I am going to go in, especially on the resin, and go in there, and I'm going to go in kind of behind it, on the sides and everything, because there's always this little gap of when you glue it down. And what that salt wash does is it fills in those little crevices and gaps, and it makes it look like the mold is or the casting is part of the whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a pot or this tin or whatever. It makes them look more like it's part of it, rather than you just took it and glued it on there and then painted it. I pretty much always use some salt wash whenever I put molds down, just in the ends, just to do that, because I noticed it really, really does give it a really good look. So anyway, I'm going to do that on both of them, on both sides. And I'm sorry that I'm off camera on some of this. I don't know. I guess I was just really intently trying to make sure I did this. The important thing when you do this too, if you notice what I'm doing, is I have like a small brush, and I'm going through and taking all of the salt wash out of all of the little, all of the little crevices and creases of the casting, because you don't want to lose that definition. So after I, do the salt wash on the sides and everything else, I go in and I make sure I'm taking a lot of it out of all those creases, and I'm pushing it into the sides, but I'm also taking it off of the creases and stuff. And that takes a little time and a little patience, but It really does make the whole thing, in the end, I think, look really, really good. And I do this on both sides, but I will have to tell you, on the clay side, you have to be extremely careful because you don't want to smash your castings. Okay, so now I'm just gonna do the same thing all over the other side, and it's just being really careful. Especially what I did is I basically dried most of this with my heat gun, and and a little bit of waiting in between, but usually I wait overnight, and then that way you don't have to worry. It's usually hard as a rock by the next day. So so anyway, I am putting the salt wash on the same mixture that I did on the other side, and making sure I get in all of the little crevices. And I'm also going over the other part of it. So now I'm taking my top coat again. This is my clear top coat. And I am going to be going over my entire piece. And it was dry before I started putting the top coat on. You just didn't see the drying. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be going over this with a wax later, with a wax finish. And if you don't put your top coat on, what'll happen is that chalk paint, especially with the salt wash, it's going to just, whatever finish you put on there, it's going to just soak it up. So I know it looks like I'm putting something white on there now, but this dries completely clear. And it absorbs, really into the chalk paint. And so it's just getting into all the little crevices and all that kind of stuff. It does seal your piece, even though, honestly, you don't really need it sealed because you're going to be putting wax over it. But I am sealing it so that when I do put the wax over it, I can wipe it back as much as I want, and I have some control over it. If I just put the wax on without this being sealed first, it would absorb too much of it. And trust me, I've done that, and the look is usually not good. So because you can't wipe it back, and the chalk paint is just going to absorb it. So anyway, I put this all over, make sure it's completely coated, and it doesn't take very long to dry. I would say, maybe 20 minutes or so. And after it's dry, we'll go on and do our next step. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some white wax to this. And it's completely dry. The top coat's dry. And as you can tell, when you put the top coat on, it makes your color even better. I love this color, guys, by the way. This Spanish moss. Anyway, by Waverly. And so anyway, I'm taking this and, and I know it looks like I've ruined it, but I'm getting this wax all over in all of the little crevices and little nooks and crannies. And the thing about it is that that salt wash is going to grab a lot of this wax, and so it's going to look pretty cool when we're all done. I know it doesn't look like much now, but the Waverly white wax is, I think, a lot more watery than some other ones, or at least from what I've used, but I actually like it. So anyway, because I think it's really easy to get into all those little nooks and crannies because it is like that. But I don't know, it's, to whatever you like. You could definitely use a dark wax on this if you wanted to. You could just use, you could have just used the sealer that we used and put a little vintage photo in it and have, made it a little bit darker. There's a lot of options that you can do on that. So after you do that, what you're going to do is you're going to start wiping it back with a baby wipe. And it really, the sealer that we put on there that dried really is going to allow us to take off as much as we want. I mean, you could leave it right how it is right now. You can take 90% of it off. I think on this piece, I probably take about 75% of the wax off. And, I'm wetting my wipe because I'm just trying to get it a little bit more moist to get into all those little crevices and everything like that. But anyway, I'm still being careful on the clay side because it's not 100%. If you waited till it was 100% dry, you definitely could really just go to town. But because I didn't do that, it's I have to be a lot more careful with this. So now I'm taking a brush and I am taking this brush and pulling out some of the wax that was in there, just because it is kind of stuck in all those creases, and it pulls it back out, and then I'll take a wipe and wipe it off, and I do that through the whole piece. I mean, you could leave it the way it is right now if you really like that much in there. It's all depending on your taste. And so that's all I do to finish it. Here is our finished product. I think it turned out really good. Here's one side. Here's the other side. I love how it looks. Does not look like a Dollar Tree container to me. Here is our little basket that we did. I think it looks very upgraded from what it started out to be. More so in person if you see the bronze on there. And now here are these two tins, which I think are my absolute favorite. They look like enamel that's been chipped. And those transfers on there look fantastic. And I got a lot of these laying around, so I'm going to be doing tons of these because I think they look great. Well, thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll see you again soon. I'm going to have some more of these coming up. Thanks.